the crime and police genres have always been an iffy genre for me. I love seeing how people solve cases, but usually they end up giving me not enough content and instead waste too much time on unimportant stuff like drama and love triangles and the like. Hello audience, today on Yvern's Box we'll be looking at what potentially might be the best police/crime anime to have come out in recent years. Psycho Pass, a 22-episode anime that began airing back in October 2012. So when I first heard of Psycho Pass, I wasn't quite quick to jump on and watch the series. Police and crime anime tend to take too much time to build up the all-important crimes and the villains, and my attention span would have been much too short for that. But upon closer examination, I realized that the studio responsible was Production IG, responsible for other beauties like Guilty Crown and Ghost in the Shell. And possibly most importantly, that the writer was Gen Urobuchi, the same man who brought us Madoka Magica, Fate Zero, and Gargantia. This sparked an interest in me, and I decided to give it a shot, and boy oh boy, do I not regret it. It's rare for me to call things epic, but it's even rarer for me to actually tie that term to a detective, crime, police anime. Psycho Pass presents us a city where many of today's main issues have already been solved, such as hunger and security, through the advancement of technology. While we would think that all is fine and dandy, reality is never so kind. Public security is upheld through a crime rating system known as the Sybil system. The Sybil system functions like this, using various other machines attached to a mainframe. Sybil scans and monitors the population's mental states, personalities, and other factors that might lead them to committing a crime. Following this examination, Sybil gives a score known as the crime coefficient to every person, and if that score exceeds a certain amount, punishment will be accordingly passed, ranging from anything between pursue or elimination. And while on paper sounds like a good idea, it practically has many flaws and limitations. There is still a lot of crime and criminals in the world of Psycho Pass, and at the same time, people who might have never become criminals might get locked up because of their score. As such, the city still requires enforcers to do what the system cannot. As far as the setting goes, Psycho Pass really outdoes itself, with the only real closer resemblance being Ghost in the Shell. On the story side, things are as equally impressive. Now, that is not to say that everything is perfect. Like I predicted, the anime took quite a bit of time to build up to a certain point where things actually get interesting. In fact, it felt like the story didn't progress much until being quite a few episodes in. The first few episodes ended up becoming a solve this case with little connections between the cases. Of course, slowly the enforcers realize that there is a central antagonist that is at the root of these problems, and end up focusing on taking this guy down. However, the journey from the discovery of this central figure to the final confrontation is fantastic, going through amazing plot twists and powerful story segments. And while the early episodes are very standalone-ish, they did a good job in presenting and enriching the world of Psycho Pass, and does a good job in letting the characters shine. Psycho Pass is very similar to another crime and police anime known as Ghost in the Shell standalone complex in both feel, style, and premises. Both the characters in their respective series are interesting and entertaining to watch. However, an interesting contrast can be made between the two main female characters, Akane Tsunemori and Major Kusanagi. The Major is depicted as an overly perfect individual very early on in Gitsak, and this made the character development bit of hers a little bit boring. Akane was a much more interesting character in how she grows during the show. She starts off very naive and innocent, which ends up getting in the way of her work. However, as time passes and as she gains more and more experience, she becomes much more firm and strong. At the same time, her idealistic view on the world is very interesting, seeing the rather dark and somber setting that Psycho Pass is in. And while she is also a law enforcement officer, she does well from differentiating herself from the others, especially Kogami. Kogami is the exact opposite of the new and fresh Akane. He's very professional in his work and sees the flaws in the Sybil system, while Akane wishes to give the Sybil system multiple chances. He takes a more direct approach to crime solving, wishing to cut down the root of the problem, while Akane thinks that with time things will become better and that people will be nicer. These two make a refreshing contrast between not what is right or wrong, but rather the different point of views on any justice system as a whole. The rest of the officers are all fantastic, with backdoor story segments being thrown here and there, which really help flesh out the characters, and multiple memorable scenes that make the characters likable. Then of course we have to talk about the main antagonist, Makishima. Makishima is very very similar to Kogami in many aspects. He views the world in a similar fashion, and he's as intelligent and fit. However, unlike Kogami, Makishima sees no point in trying to work for society, instead chooses to wreak havoc in any way he sees fit. However, he's also well versed and philosophical, and there will be many scenes where Makishima ends up explaining the moral lesson behind his actions, and while it might sound like some child fairy tale to some, the things he says are both fascinating and intelligent, and one cannot help but want to applaud for this monster of a man. At the same time, the unimportant characters in the series, like the average person of the population, are also well done. The population will react to the current events within the show, and interesting plot points are actually brought up upon by the masses. Additionally, the show's use of the internet and online discussions are also highly interesting and helps intensify the gravity of the situation. Psycho Pass started off strong with its impressive presentation. The opening was dark yet beautiful, with both the music and the accompanying art being fantastic. The first few minutes showed excellent integration of CGI, and the virtual reality system was quite captivating. The tone of the show as a whole is dark yet fast-paced. The music that happens usually fits the scenes well, with fast and energetic music being put on more action-packed scenes, and the rest filled with a more grime and darker music. The animation is impressive. While some complaints could be made about the character designs of some of the characters, those don't hinder the enjoyment of the series one bit. The first opening was fantastic, and although I was sad to see it leave, the second opening was just as good, if not better. The fight scenes in particular showed excellently polished animation, and while some episodes were on par with the others, it stays on a relatively high standard. Psycho Pass rewrote the notion of what somewhat boring crime and police animes were for me, using an incredibly fascinating setting, fantastic characters, and incredible aesthetics. It is a true masterpiece among its peers and definitely deserves a recommendation. Additionally, a re-edited version of Psycho Pass is currently on air, so if you haven't checked it out yet, you really should. Thank you all for watching my review of the anime known as Psycho Pass. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please leave a like or subscribe, because it really goes a long way motivating me to do more of these reviews. I will be attempting to upload up to 2 videos per week, so subscribe to get notifications of when those come out. Anyway, like always guys, this has been Yvern and my box.